Okay, let's start. I'd like to introduce our instructor for this evening. He is a LinkedIn Learning author, an architect by profession. His specialty is BIM modeling and consultancy services. And of course, if you have questions along the way, you can post your questions in the comment section, and he will answer it later. Okay? I'd like to introduce, or I'll be adding, Onyema. Hello. Good evening. Oh, I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, good day, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today to anchor this masterclass. So, in this session, I will be exploring how we can all collaborate in Revit using BIM Collaborate Pro. So, Revit as a software is already has a collaboration feature that allows you to work on the same Revit model. Different people working on the same model from different pieces. But then when you add BIM Collaborate Pro to it, it allows you to go beyond your local network to collaborate from any part of the world. So you can have a big project whereby you have the architects from a different country, you have the structural engineers, the MEP engineers, all from different parts of the world. So when you have BIM Collaborate Pro, that allows you to collaborate from any part of the world that you find yourself. So in this session, I'll be exploring how you can properly set up a project and collaborate properly. This could actually be different companies and different firms from different part of the world. So without further ado, I'll just get started. So I'll go ahead to share my screen. So hope you can see my screen. All right. So to get started, the BIM Collaborate Pro is a part of Autodesk Construction Cloud. It's a suite of software, cloud-based solutions. You have so many other solutions within the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform. You have the likes of Autodesk Build, you have BIM Collaborate Pro, you have BIM Collaborate, you have Plan Grid. You have so many solutions within the suite of software. So in this session, we're going to basically look at BIM Collaborate Pro because it's one of those tools found within the solution, and it enables teams to collaborate from different parts of the world using Revit and also other software like Civil 3D and so many other tools. So today I'm going to basically be working from Revit. So to get started, you need to first of all set up a project on the cloud, right? So you have this acc.autodesk.com. So when you visit this link here, acc.autodesk.com, that is where you're going to get started. So if you already have existing projects on your account, you see those projects here, just like you can see here. So you can see some projects I've worked on, which are basically sample projects I use for my LinkedIn course, right? So if you want to create a new project, all you have to do is to click on create project. But also, if you don't want to keep building project from scratch all the time, you can also set up templates. So if you are used to Revit, you know that you can set up your Revit templates which serve as starting point for your project. So here you can see that I've already configured some templates. So these templates already, they will have some folder structure, they will have some naming conventions, basically a lot of settings that you need for your projects so that you don't need to create it all the time from scratch, right? So but for this, if you already have a template, you can also reference the template when you're creating a project. So from here, when I click on create project, this will now take me to this create project interface. So this is the first step. You need to first of all create the project on the cloud before you go to Revit. So there are a couple of settings that I'll walk you through on how to set up. Once you've set up all those things, you can now move into Revit to start your collaboration setup from Revit as well. So of course, the first thing you need to give it a name. So for the sake of this, I'll just call this sample project. But of course, this should be a proper project title. So it could be your hotel project in Berlin or whatever. So you give it a name, and then of course give it a number as well. So depending on your naming convention in your company, you also choose a name for it. So for example, let me say I use something like this, depending on the way you name your project in your company and the project number, and then you choose account. So if you have license from different accounts. You see them here. So you can see that I have license on 2 different accounts. So I will choose this for now. And then you set the project type. What type of project is it? Is it an office building? Is it a stadium? Whatever. So you choose the project type. And of course, when you look at this dialog, you see that some of them are asterisk. So the ones that have asterisk are the ones that are compulsory. Some other information here might not be compulsory. So for example, this template, if I don't want to choose an existing template, I can actually create a project from scratch. But to save my time, I already set up a template. So I'll just choose one of the templates from here. And then you can also put the project address. It's important to put the project address because that allows the platform to know where the project is located. And sometimes it will give you insights about the demographic and geographic information about that project. So let's assume that this project is located in the US, right? So I'll just choose a random location in the US. Let's say Broad Street, Middletown or something. Of course, as you're typing the address, it will be giving you suggestions. So let's assume that the project is located in this place, right? Then of course you give it a time zone. So let's assume that this is GMT -5 or whatever time zone, wherever the project is located. And then you might also want to choose a start and end date. So these are just like estimated dates, for example. So in this case, I can say that this project is actually starting on the 1st of November this year, right? This 1st of November 2021. And then the estimated end date may be the same date in 2024, for example, right? So let me just say 30, 30th of September, for example. And then you can also put in an estimated value. All this information are not compulsory, like I said. The only compulsory information here are the ones on Axteris. So let's just assume that this project is actually worth $2 billion. Right, so that's just the estimated value. Once you've done all that, you click on create project. Okay, say that the project already exists with this name. So since the project number is 070, I can as well use something like that. So you see that you can't have the same project, 2 different projects with the same name. So it will give you an error, which is what just happened. So once you create the project, the BIM Collaborate Pro platform will take you to the members interface. So it's basically asking you to add members to this project, right? So now I'm the only one on this project. So this is the point when you begin to invite people to the project. These people don't have to be from your company. All the people that need to be on this project, because this is basically a common data environment, right? This is a platform that allows multiple people to communicate on the same project. So this can actually come from different companies, right? So from here, you need to begin to add members to the project. So what you have to do is just simply type you can either type in their email address or if you know their name as well. So in this case, let's just say I have a couple of accounts on my name. So you can see some suggestions already. I have so many accounts. You can see they are all bearing my name, but in a real project, these are different people from different companies, or it can be from the same company, right? So then from here, you can also assign them to their companies or their roles, but I'm assuming that they are from different companies, so I don't want to assign all of them to the same company. So do you want them to become project member or project administrator? So in BIM Collaborate Pro, there are 2 different permission levels or access levels from a high level. And when you're setting up the project members basically they are members on the project. They don't have as much privilege as the project administrators. Project administrators are the people that basically manage the project. So these people, do you want them to become project members or do you want them to become administrators? You go ahead and decide. And then from here as well, these are the products that you have currently. You can see these are purchase products. So on this account, I have all these products. So do I want to activate the same products for these people? So depending on what you want them to do, in this case, our focus is just design collaboration because BIM Collaborate Pro is meant for design collaboration, right? So in this case, I just only want them to collaborate on this project, but assuming I want them to collaborate on the field, which is basically another aspect of this Okay, so basically what I've done so far is I've created the project, which is the first step. You need to create the project. And then the second step is to add members to the project. So I just added a couple of people to this project, although they are all my name because these are I have so many accounts on this platform from different places, right? So, but in a real project, these are different people from different companies. So at this point as well, I can also begin to assign these people. So some of those options I had when I was adding them to the project, I can also configure them later. So for example, I can assume that this person is a structural engineer on this project and this is the company. So I can assign the company, and then what's the person's role? This person is an engineer, for example. I check a person can have more than one role on the platform. So the second step is once you create the project, you need to specify the people on the project. And then let's assume that I want this person to actually have a project admin privilege on this project. I want the person to be able to administer the project and manage the project. Then I can also assign that from here. The same with this person. I can go ahead and set up all this. So this person as well, I can say this person is from this company, right? And then so let's say the first one is an MEP engineer and this is a structural engineer. So they are both engineers, right? So I set up that, and this person, I just want this person to be a project member and not an administrator. So you see that even the products, I can also activate the products from here. Even I myself, this is my own account. I've not even set my own company yet. So I can also specify my company. So let me assume that this is my company, and then my role, let me assume I'm an architect on this project. So this is the second step. I've created the project and I've added members to the project. But at this point, you might be wondering, how do you add companies? Because these are already existing companies on this project, right? So for you to be able to add companies on this platform, you need to be able to have an account administrator privilege, which means that you're one of the managers of the account on that particular, for maybe for your company. When you purchase a license, you assign the account administrators, which is basically done from the Autodesk account manager. So you need to assign the account administrator. So for me to do that, if you go to the account admin, so if you're an account administrator, you'll be able to see this account admin. So when you visit the account admin module on this platform, you will see this BIM 360 admin. So from this BIM 360 admin, you go to companies, right? So this will open a new interface here. And then from this BIM 360 administration module, you can see the companies, right? So if you need to add more companies, you simply click on add, and then you fill up the information about the company. What's the company name? What type of company is that? The address of the company, the city, even the company logo, description about the company, their website, tax ID, all the information you need about the company. But of course, not all of them are compulsory. So you put in as much information as you need. And once you are done with that, you save. So that's basically how you add companies. Once you've added companies to the project, by the time you go back to a project and you want to add members to that project, you see the company there. So now what we need to do is we need to go back to a project. So this is the drop down where you have the projects, right? So now this is the project I just created, sample project 0070. So from this drop down here, I go back into the project. Right, so you see that it takes me back to the project admin. So from this project admin, I actually want to go to the place where I'll be able to set up the project folders and begin to create teams within that project. So this one is currently stuck in project admin. So I might actually want to go back to the home page and access it from there. So when I go back to acc.autodesk.com, which is where I started from the other time. So you see that when you go back to this home page, this is your projects page. You see that the project has been added to here. So you can see the project here 0070. So now when I open the project from this place, it still takes me to the project admin page. Okay. Okay, see what's happening. I did not activate services for myself. So, and I cannot see the services. So now I actually activated services for other people, but I did not activate myself. So that is why I can't see the other modules. So now, like I did for the other people I added to the project, I've activated docs. It's important that you activate docs. If you don't activate docs, all these other ones will not be active because basically, I think I'll just explain how all this works. So this docs is a document management module of this platform. And then build is for collaboration on site, so which is beyond the scope of this training. And then you have cost, which is for cost management for contractors on site. And then you have design collaboration, which is the one that enables you to collaborate in Revit. And you also have model coordination. If you are familiar with Navisworks Manage, this is a bit similar to Navisworks Manage, but it's now on the cloud. And they also have the takeoff, which is mostly for quantity surveyors to do their cost estimation and all that. So you need to activate the modules that you need for your project. So now when I refresh my page now, you see that I will not have only project admin. So you can see now I've activated the modules here. So now what I want to do is I want to begin to set up the various teams for this project. So this is the docs module. Now what happens here, you see that I already have I have folder structures already. So this folder structure is here because when I started this project, I started with an existing template. So as a company, you want to take your time to create folder structures, and then you create a template using that folder structure. So here you can see that this is a template that we use for our company. So you can see the various teams under here. You see there's so many folders, right? So this is the structure that already is established. So because I started with a template, I don't need to repeat all this process again. Everything is already part of that existing template, right? So this is the template. So the next step now is for me to now begin to add team members. I've already established a folder structure. Now I need to establish the teams. So these teams are actually different companies, right? So for me to do that, I need to go to the design collaboration module. So I click on design collaboration. So the first time you open this in a project, it will bring up a number of dialogue. This only happens for the first time. After this, you not see those dialogues again. So you see that it will take some time to initialize the project, analyze the existing state of the project, and do a couple of things. This is only applicable for the first time. Once you've established the teams on the project, it will not take this long anymore. But this design collaboration module, this is where you set up the teams on the project, right? So it will give you this welcome to design collaboration administration and all that. So this is basically asking you to select your shared folder location. So it's important to explain what this actually means. So the way design collaboration works on the project on this BIM Collaborate Pro, basically you have the various teams working in what is called work in progress folders or WIP folders. So those work in progress folders is only the members of that team that can see the files or the information within those work in progress folders, right? So and then you now have what is called a shared folder. So the shared folder is now where the various teams, that's where they send information they want to share with other team members. So when you send information to the shared folders, those team members can now review it and decide if they need that information or not. And if they decide that they need it, they will now consume it into their own work in progress folder. So this is basically asking you to select where you want to use as your shared folder location. So I could just leave it to the default, which is project file shared, and then I continue. So like I said, this only comes up when you open this module for the first time, right? So now this is now the critical step. This is now the point where I begin to create the teams. So these teams, like I said, to represent different companies. So typically you have the architectural team, the structural engineering team, the MEP. The MEP can even be different companies. You might have an ELV company, you might have an electrical engineering company, you might have mechanical, plumbing, and whatnot. So as much companies as you need on the project, you need to create different teams for them. But I will just assume that I have just 3 teams on this project. So I can either type in the team names here. For example, I can say 01 architect or whatnot, right? But since I already have folders, I can actually select existing folders for the teams, which is the essence of creating those folders in the first place. So this will bring you to this teams folder here, and then you can see architect structures and MEP. So I will select this architects as the parent folder for this team, and then I add the team, right? So you see that if you look here, you notice that it's creating the team. So you can see this a team has been added to this project, which is architects. Then I do the same again. If I go back there, you notice that architects is no more an option because it's already referenced. So I do the same for structures. I select structures, and then I add this team. So this is the second team on this project. And then lastly, I select MEP, right? So of course, in a real project, MEP might be more than just a team. It might be so many teams under the MEP disciplines. But this is just simplified. So you have 3 teams on this project. So if you notice what we've done so far, we've created the project. That's the first step. We've added members to the project. That's the second step. The third step, you might want to create the folder structure. And now the fourth step is to add team to the project. So now once you added teams to the project, so you notice that under these teams here, you see members. So you notice that automatically you have 2 members on every team. So what is happening here is that the members on that project that have project admin privilege, they are automatically part of all the teams. So because I activated project administrator privilege for 2 accounts on this project, those are already part of the various teams. So if you want to add more members to a team, for example, the structural engineering guy, I want to add it to this structural engineering, I'll click on this number here, which is 2. And now this will bring up all the members on this project that are not part of a team yet. So this is quite confusing because it's the same name, but these are the 2 accounts that currently are not project administrators on this project. So I can choose either of the 2, or of course in a project you need to be sure of the person, and then when you select the person, okay, okay. So these are the 2 project admin rather. So if you select this person, which is the structural engineer, I could just add both of them just to be sure. Right, so this is now where you set the permission level. So this permission level is the amount of access the person has. So this person might be able to view, the person might be able to create, might be able to edit the information within that work in progress folders or the team, right? So in this case, let me just say this person can be able to edit, right? So once you added these people, you click on add, and if you check the numbers on the project, you notice that these people will be added to that team. So this is what you need to repeat for all the teams. So once you've invited the project members to the project, you need to also assign them to their teams. Otherwise, they will not belong to any team. So you see that I can also remove them from the team. But these two guys there are the project administrators, and that is why you cannot remove them. For you to remove them, you need to make them project members and not admin. So once I've added this, I close this. So you see that now the structures team has 4 members, while the architecture and the MP team has 2 members. So that is the basic setup that you need to do on the cloud. So I've created this project now on the cloud. It's now time for you to now go into Revit and begin to publish the files to the cloud. So before you can even go to Revit and begin to do collaboration or anything, you need to go through this process. You need to first of all establish the project properly on the cloud, create the project, invite project members to the project, establish your folder structure, establish the team members and whatnot. Once you've done all that, you can now go into Revit. So I have a couple of sample projects here. What you have here, this is, if you zoom in here, you see that this is also my course on LinkedIn. This is the same files I use, the same sample files. So you see that this is the architecture Revit template, and this is the MEP Revit template, and this is the structural engineering template. So basically, I have 3 disciplines here. I have 3 disciplines: architecture, structure, and MP. So what I now want to do is for me to begin to push these files to the cloud for them to become part of the project I just created on the cloud. So of course, you need to make sure that you are on the same account that you. Okay, so back into Revit. I've established the project on the cloud. So now this step is where you now begin to push the project from Revit into the cloud. So as I was saying, in Revit you can collaborate within your network, and for you to do that, you basically create what is called work sets. So if you are collaborating within your network, if you are familiar with that, you know that you have what's called a central file, and then you have local copies of that central file, and then everybody communicates through the central file, but within a local area network. But in this case, all you have to do is to push this file to the cloud, and then everybody on that project basically access the same file from their respective locations. So basically what happens is when they open that file, Revit will create a very temporary file, a cached copy of that file that serves as a local copy. So, but basically, you don't need to worry yourself with other technicalities. All you have to do is to access the file from the cloud. So, you notice that all I have to do here now, I click on Collaborate in Cloud, right? So, once I do this, this will now begin to verify that this I have account on the cloud. So you can see the two accounts I have. So from here, this is one I need to open, and then from here I need to, so you can see the project I just created, sample project 0070 I just created. So from here I go to the project files and not this, for the field is for Autodesk build. So you go to project files, you can see the folders I created. So I open this architects because this is the architectural templates, and then I navigate to the folder that I want to put this. So this is under module, then I go to Revit under module. Yeah, so I open Revit. So this is the folder where I need to put this file. So once I click initiate at this point, what happens now is Revit begin to upload this model to the cloud. So you can see uploading model to the cloud. So depending on the size of the project, it might take a while, right? So that's basically the process. So I basically need to repeat this same process for all the disciplines. So, but of course, the reason you are seeing all the disciplines on the same PC is because this is just for demonstration. In an ideal project, this process will be repeated by different teams from different parts of. They'll need to put in their own architectural model to their folder on the cloud. The structural design team from a different location will repeat the same process. The MEP teams, no matter how many of them they are, will repeat the same process. So that, which is why it's important that you establish the project for on the cloud. If you don't establish the project on the cloud, you can't see any folder to upload to. So when you now say collaborate in cloud, you will not see any folder. So which is why we had to first of all establish the teams, create the folders, and do all that. So this will take quite some time, but after that, if you go back to the cloud, you notice that the file is already dropping. So this is where I'm sending the file to. So if I go to this architects and then I go to BIM, go to model, go to Revit. So this is quite a long folder. So you can see now this was last updated on the 29th of August. So you can see this is just dropped now, right? So that is the file I just sent. The architecture project has been sent to the cloud. So you can see here initiation, everything is successful, right? So I've sent this file to the cloud. Then of course I can repeat the same for the MEP as well. You go to the collaborate tab, collaborate in cloud. Sometimes it might force you to save the model before you do that, right? So this, it might force you to save so that you have a copy of the project before collaboration, and then I choose this time around the MEP folder, not the architecture folder. So when I open project files here, I go to MEP this time, right? This is MEP. Yeah, this is MEP. So I go to basically the same folder structure, go to model, then Revit, and then I initiate this. So this will repeat this, basically the same thing. So if you, this is where I'm sending the file. So you see that this is still processing, the architectural model is still processing. If I go to the MEP folder here, you notice that it's also sending that. So now you see that this basically is on the cloud. So this allows different teams to collaborate from any part of the world as long as you have access to this file. So you see that this file has not dropped yet, but after some minutes it will drop, and that's because it's still uploading the model. So this is how the whole platform was. Of course, there are so many other activities that need to take place that I will demonstrate. But before I can do that, I need to first of all upload all the cloud, because there are a number of communication that take place in Revit, and there's also a number of communication that take place on the cloud. I need to understand that. So everything I'm doing now is just basically the setup process. This is basically, you need to go through this process, establish the project on the cloud, establish the project in Revit, push the models to the cloud before you can begin to leverage the features of BIM Collaborate Pro, both within Revit and outside of Revit. So it seems this file is a bit large, but of course it take a while to drop. And then I've also have to repeat the same process for structure. So structure, the model is very light, so that shouldn't take time. So once it's done uploading, it will save the model to local cache. So basically the local cache is your local copy of that file that is on the cloud. So you are communicating between the local copy that is cached and the file you uploaded to the cloud. So in this case, you don't need to worry about local and central file like you do locally. So if you check here, you see that this is the file it has dropped, it's processing, right? So quickly, I'll also repeat the same for structures. Go to collaborate in cloud, and then navigate to the structures folder. The same project, and then sorry, I go to structures this time, BIM model, Revit, and I initiate. Right, so that's the second step, or the second major step setup. We'll set up on the cloud, and then we'll come to Revit and push all these files to the cloud. So once you now do that, I will now demonstrate how these various teams communicate on the cloud. So just a brief high level over explanation of this folder structure. So basically, like I mentioned earlier, you see that each of these teams here have their work in progress folder. The reason I'm seeing all these folders myself is because I'm a project administrator on the project. As a project administrator, you are able to see all the folders on the project. But if you are just a project member and you've been added to a team, for example, the two guys are added to the structure team, when they log into this platform, all they will see is their own teams folders and this shared folder. So this shared folder is where the various teams communicate. So these are the various work in progress folders for the various teams, and this is the shared folder that allows communication to take place. So you see that all the teams have uploaded their files now to the cloud. So now to demonstrate the communication actually takes place through this design collaboration module, right? So what happens now is that as the various teams are working, they are communicating through Revit. The designers are communicating through Revit. So when you open this MEP, for example, you notice that you have different work sets. You have architecture, structure, electrical, mechanical, plumbing. So these three work sets here is for the various disciplines within MEP. So typically on a project, you have someone working on electrical, another person working on mechanical, another person working on plumbing. So they are all communicating locally. I mean, they are all communicating through Revit. So that is what this work set here is for. But for the various teams, which ideally are located in different parts of the world, for them to communicate, you now communicate through this design collaboration module. So when you open the design collaboration, after you've created the teams, if you click on this icon here, it will show you the various teams, right? So this is assuming that I'm the architect. When you click on this shared, if you are the project admin, you can also access other teams. So you can see you have the architecture, MEP, and the structure. These are the various teams you have on this project. And now I'm looking at this project from the point of view of the architect. So there are different icons you see. This is called a swim lane on this platform. And this is where you see the various activities that are going on between the various teams. So basically what you see here is the file I just published. That is what is showing here as a blog, right? If I go to the MEP as well, you notice that I'll also see the file I've published if it has finished processing. So you can see it here. This is the file I just published. And then if you go to the structures, so because I'm the project administrator, I can access all the teams on this platform. So you see that all these files have finished processing. So these are the files. Even from here, I can even click on this and I'll see the details of that file, right? So this is the structural engineering model that is currently being opened. So this is the model I just published from Revit, right? So now for the various teams to communicate. So let's assume that as a structural engineering team, we've got to a point where we want to share information with another team, with other teams on the project. Because at this point, other teams cannot see all these things that are within our work in progress folders unless we share it with them. So for us to share with them, you now need to come here, you click on this create a new package. So you have to create a package. A package is basically the way we send back in the days when we used to send a post office, so when we used to send mails through post office. So you basically create a package and you choose what you want to contain within that package. So these are the files you have currently. You have sets that have been published from Revit. These are sheets that you have in your Revit, right? And you create that from Revit. If you go to Revit, if you go to this is your public settings, you can create sets that contain different views, right? So these are the sets. You can see the MEP detailed design. We did not publish this MEP presentation. Okay, this is for MEP actually. I'm talking about structures. If you go to public settings, you see the same thing here, detailed design. So these are sets, right? So when you when you publish this thing to the cloud, the set you publish is what you see here as sets. So do I want to include this set? This is the detailed design. Let's say this is what I want to share with other teams, right? I can add sets. I can also add models. If I want to add more models, if you have more models on the project, if you see them here, you can also choose. But because I only have this model at the moment, this is the only one and it's checked by default. And then you can even add documents. So this is just like you are creating a package containing information and you want to share this package with other teams, right? So when you've chosen what you need to add to this package, you now click on save, right? So you might be wondering why you have to go through all this process. But the reason why I have to go through all this process is because according to ISO standard, when you're working through a common data environment, you should still have a level of privacy. Because you are working on the same platform doesn't mean that everybody should not have access to all the information. So having all this series of protection or privacy allows companies to they still work within their own work in progress folders, and then they share what they want to share with other teams when they are ready. Not that the other team members will be able to see what they are working on, right? So once I've added all these things here, I can now share it. So what happens now when I click on share? I can give it a name. This is the package name. I can give it perhaps I can call this detailed design progress or something. Just something to explain. I can also add a description just to explain the content of the package, right? So once I'm done doing this, I click on share. So now this information will now go to the shared folder. Remember what I mentioned that the shared folder is where these various teams communicate. So if you go back to docs now, the docs is where you see documents as a document management module. So when you open these docs and you go to shared folder, you notice that each discipline have their own shared folder here. So if you go to structures here, you see the file I just shared. So this is the structure. This is the file I just shared now that contains all this information. So this is how all the other teams will now repeat the same process whenever they are ready. So it's all those communications take place through the design collaboration module. So basically, like I said, you see that the various teams have to share the information they are comfortable to share with other teams. So this is the information you publish from Revit. It shows as a filled square icon, and this is the package you share from the BIM Collaborate Pro, the design collaboration module. It shows as a hollow dot. Now, when I share my own, which is I'm under architecture team now, so if I want to share package with other disciplines as well, I repeat the same process. From here, I select what I want to include in the package. So I want to include the detailed design set, which is basically a collection of different sheets and views that were created from Revit. So you can see the architectural model. So this is quite an extensive video. So of course, if you also go through the course on LinkedIn, you can access this file. You can even download the file from there, right? So I choose what I want to include from here. I include the sets, the models, and the documents. If I need to include documents, I add documents from here. Once I'm okay with this, I save this, and then I share this. So the moment I share this, I can also call it detailed design progress, right? So I share this. So this will now move to the shared folder of the project as well, under architecture folder, right? So the architects have shared a progress, the structural engineers have shared a progress, just to also for the MEP, they can also repeat the same. So you see that I'm under MEP, I can see my Revit file that I published from Revit. I can see the package that is shared by structural engineers. I can see the package that was shared by the architects. So I can also share my own package just to demonstrate as well. So when I click on this as well, just the same thing. I go to here, I select the sets, under sets, I select the models. If I have multiple models, I can choose which one I want to include. And then I also add documents if I need to. And then I click save. So from here, you can see this is the MEP model of that same project. So this shows you all the pipes. Depending on the project, you can see all the pipes, all the hot water, cold water, sanitary pipes, all the electrical fixtures and fittings and whatnot that are contained in that building. That's the MP model. So now I share this with the other teams. That's the same thing, detail, design progress, right? So I click share. So the 3 teams have shared their progress updates. So this is how communication happens. This is the first step, to share package. Now the second step is to now begin to review those packages. You share these packages with the other team members. Those teams need to now review the content of the package and decide what to do with it. But just to also explain, if you go to the docs module here, the docs module is just for you to view the file, but that is not where you consume or decide what to do with it. This is just where to access the documents, right? So if you go to shared here, if you go to under architects, you see what they shared. If you go to under structures, you see what they shared. If you go to the MP team, you see what they shared, right? But for you to now decide what to do with this shared information, the entire communication takes place through the design collaboration model. That's why it's called design collaboration. So this is where the whole communication takes place. Document management is just for you to, perhaps review the document, but it's not for collaboration. So now let's begin to review that. So now I'll start with the architecture team again. So if I go to the architects here, I can access all these things because I'm a project admin. If you are a project member and you've been assigned to a team, you can only access your own team's information, right? So now the reason why this dot here is filled is because I'm the one that published this. So for these ones to become filled, you can see they are hollow currently. For them to become filled, I have to consume the information. I have to review the information, right? So when I open the information shared by the MEP team, when I click on that, I'll see currently there's one set within that package and there's one model. There's no document. From here as well, I can even explore the content of this package. So from here, if I click on explore, it will also open that same information. So I can see what is within that. I can see that there are 26 sheets within the set, which is from this set here, it contains 26 sheets. I can review all that. And then, so this is basically me going through this as this is another team, reviewing what these other team members have shared, right? So once I've reviewed all these things and I'm satisfied with what they've shared, I can now consume this information. Then I can also choose to show changes. Basically, if this is a different what they've added, what they've removed, what they've modified between now and the last update, right? So, but once I'm okay with this, I'll now consume this. So when I click consume, what happens now is that this platform to create another subfolder under my teams folder called consume, and that is where this information will be sent to. So it will now send this information into my own team space so that all the other team members can work with it, right? So this is I've consumed the information as architects. I've consumed information from MEP, and now you can see that this is now showing as a few dots. It's no more hollow, but I've not consumed this one yet. That's why I see. So if you're working on this platform with experience, you begin to understand what all these icons stand for. Whenever you see a dot like this that is hollow, it simply means that a package has been shared, but you've not consumed that package just yet. If you see the one that is filled like this from another team, it means that that information is now part of your own team space, right? So when I click on these structures as well, I can explore what they've shared. I can check out all the sheets and whatnot that they've shared with my team. And once I'm okay with all that, I go ahead to consume. So just for sake of time, I'll just consume this. You can repeat the same thing I'll quickly do that as well. So the architects have consumed information from the structures and the MEP. Then the MEP as well, they need to consume the information from the architects and structures. So I'll go to structures from here, and then I just for sake of time, I'll just go ahead to consume this into my own team space. And then I repeat the same for architects. I go to architects and consume this as well into my own team space. So that is for the MEP, the structures team as well. So this is how communication take place on this platform. You see that it's quite different from how communication take place within Revit, right? So all you have to do is a team will share their own package, and then you review the content of the package. You can even reject the package if you don't want that package. You can just ask them to resend a new package. So you just leave it there, right? So once you are satisfied with that information, you consume it. So now all the teams have reviewed the content shared by the other teams, and they've consumed that information. Consume means that it's now part of their own team space. So just to demonstrate that, if you go back to docs module here, and then you go to architects, for example, you notice that under architects, you have a folder here called consume. So if you go to this consumed, you see that they've consumed information from structures and MEP. That's why I have these folders here. So when you click on structures, you see this. When you go to MEP, you see this. So this is the same thing for structures as well. If you go to structures, you see their own consume folder, and you see architecture and MEP. The same thing for MEP. If you go to their consume folder, you see architects and structure. So this is how communication takes place. These various teams, they've shared information, they've also accepted information. Now, talking about Revit, right? So at this point, these guys are still working from their respective 3D models, right? So this is the architecture model from Revit, right? This is the structural model, this architecture, this structure, right? And this MEP. This MEP model. So, but ideally, in a project, they should be able to link their files into their the other discipline, so that they'll be able to, see in real time the changes that are happening, which is the whole idea of BIM Collaborate Pro. The communication actually takes place in Revit, right? So the main designers, which are the actual designers, architects, structural engineers, they communicate through Revit. So for them to see the progress updates from the other team members, they need to link to those files that you have here. So depending on the level of collaboration you have on the project, that will determine what they are linking to. Some teams prefer to work, everybody's working from this shared space, right? So the architects are actually working, they are linking to the shared model so they are linking to this file that have been shared here. So, but some people refer to this as a high trust environment. The reason why it's not advisable to link to this file is because this file has not been reviewed just yet. It's only when this file has been reviewed and accepted that it moves to the consume space. So it's when you've established all these files that you now come into Revit and now begin to link. So what I want to do now is that I want to link, this is the MEP model, for example. I want to link in the architectural model and the structural model into this project from Revit, because this is where the real design takes place, not on the cloud. So now if you go to the insert tab in Revit, and then you click on link Revit, right? So this will begin to take you to the cloud if you have BIM Collaborate Pro license on that project. So it will take a while, and then so you can see these external links from here. And already, because I've accessed the cloud, so you see from here, I just go to external links, go to BIM 360 if you've not opened it before, and then I go to the projects, right? So it automatically identifies the projects from the name, and then I go to, so because in a real project, you cannot even see the other teams folder. So you want to link either to the shared file here, but I mentioned that it's called a high trust environment. But in a low trust environment where the teams need to make sure that they are working with confirmed information, verified information. So since this is the MEP team, I need to link to this consumed Revit files. So if I want to link in the architectural model, I link to this this architectural Revit file here, and then I click open. So this will begin to link in that file from the cloud. So you see, this is the beauty of remote collaboration. So what this means now is that as the architects are working, they are publishing their changes to the cloud. And anytime that information is reviewed and accepted, I automatically see the changes within Revit because that information will update, it will update this file. So you can see currently you have version number 1. This is the first version that has been published. But as the project begins to progress over time, these version numbers will be increasing. You can see a project having as much as version 500. That project might have lasted for over a year and they keep communicating over time. So that is how communication takes place. You don't need to be on the same. So you can see this is the architectural model. I've linked it from the cloud. I don't need to have access to their their server or whatever. Every communication is taking place on the cloud. So I do the same thing. I go back here, link Revit, and then I go to the MEP folder from here. So you see that this folder, it looks like a normal folder, but this is actually coming from the cloud. This is a mapped folder. It's coming from, you can see that this is an external reference, right? So this is my own team space MEP. And then I go to consume folder here. I go to structures, right? And then I link in this structural mod. So this is how the various teams, the respective teams, will link in to the other teams. So this is basically the entire setup. We need to do all this setup before it can begin to communicate properly on the project. So you see the following links will not appear. So even the structural model has the architecture and the MEP linked within it. But because it's linked as a reference, so if you go to manage links, you see that these things are actually overlay and not they are overlay and not attachment. So that means that when you load this file into a different project, it will not replicate the linking again. So that is what that one is all about. So I can also set up this view to become, since this is an MEP project, I can also set up the discipline to be, let's say, mechanical. So when I come here, you see discipline is currently coordination. I can change this to mechanical. So once I do that, it will kind of make the architectural and the structural elements transparent so that I can still see my own elements. So you see what is happening here. You have 3 different disciplines communicating, right? So this is the MEP discipline, and they can easily see what is happening in the structural engineering team and the architectural team. So this is how collaboration takes place using BIM Collaborate Pro. All these teams can now be working from different parts of the world. So they can now begin to communicate and work together in a very
Hi, I think we lost the connection again. Onyema, you're muted. I think we lost the connection again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So now, if you go to this model I just published on the cloud, you go to Revit, you notice that the version number is now 2, right? So as you keep publishing changes, you'll be seeing the updates. So this is the version 2. So I can repeat the same thing for the other disciplines as well. This is the MEP. If I go to the structural model, I can choose to link the architectural and the MEP model. Go to the architecture, link the MEP and the structural model. So once you've set up all this is now when you can now begin to communicate within Revit. So the teams can just be working within Revit, just the normal way they work, and then they will just be synchronizing their changes to the cloud. So once you come here, you can synchronize with central. So instead of synchronize, if you are used to local collaboration in Revit, you know that it will synchronize to the central file. But in this case now, the central file is on the cloud. So I'm just pushing those changes out to the cloud, and the other team members are also working from the cloud as well, and everybody is communicating within Revit. So that's basically the overview of the whole collaboration in Revit. But of course, when you now come back to the platform here, you see that the entire thing we've been talking about since is for people that are working in Revit. But what about people that are not working in Revit? People like the project managers, the BIM managers, and the likes. So those people, they work mostly from this docs module. The designers work mostly from the collaboration module, which is where they share package, they consume package, and they separate the the less technical members of the team. They communicate from the docs module, right? So for the docs module, I'll just give an overview of some of the features that enable the non-technical members of the project to communicate. So let's say, for example, if I go to architecture team, let's say I'm the BIM manager for the architectural team. I'm not working with Revit most of the time. I just want to see the updates or the progress, right? So when I come in here and I open this model, which is the Revit model here, I go to Revit and then I open this file, right? You see that I don't need to have Revit on my PC to open it. This is loading on the browser. I can see what is happening here. I can navigate around this file. Even as a non-technical member of this project, I can navigate around this. I can cut sections through this, right? I can cut Z, Y, and X axis. I can cut different types of sections in this project, right? I can just review what is happening on this project. You see that I can just basically do a lot of things. I can even walk into the project. I can do so many things, right? But beyond all that, you can also come in here. You see the sheets and view up here. This is the 3D tab. You have the 2D tab. So the various sheets that have been published to these projects, I can also access them from here. So for example, this is the floor plan of this project, right? So you can see that from here, I can do a lot of things. You can see tools here. With these tools, I can do so many things as well. I can you can see this tool here is for write up, maybe just a marker. I can use it to do some annotations or whatever, right? If I want to save this, I can actually just undo this whole thing. So they have so many annotation tools. These are annotation tools. If I need to write the text, I can make a review. I just write some random thing here, right? And then I can also expand this. From the settings here, I can change the color of this text to something different, right? This is the border color, this is the text color, and whatnot. So I can do a lot of things even as a non-technical member, and the people on the project will see all this. So this is probably for design review, right? As a non-technical member on the team, I can see review the project update or progress, right? So these are different tools. You have this revision tool as well. I can use this to revise. If there's a portion of the project that need to be revised, I can just quickly make some revisions. I can take measurements, right? I can measure different parts of the drawing and so many things. I can do a whole lot of things, right? You can even calibrate and do so many things. So those are some of the things that you can do as a non-technical member of the project. But then even beyond that, you can also raise issues. So let's assume that I'm reviewing this particular design and then I notice that the window size used on this service quarters is not the right size, right? With this tool here, I can actually raise an issue from here. So I can raise a design issue from here. I'll just click on this window and then this will bring up the issues tab. So from here, I can give it a title and then I assign this issue to somebody. So I can assign this to a member of this project and now say this person should resolve this issue, right? I can specify if you've created locations of the project, you can even specify, you can create locations on this platform as well. I can specify the location of this issue, give it a start date and an end date, and do so many things. I can even attach a document just to explain what that issue is all about. So you see that this is how you can begin to this when we talk about collaboration from BIM Collaborate Pro, it's not just collaboration between designers, it's also collaboration between designers and managers on the project, designers and even the clients. A client on the project can be given access to this project and the client can be given a permission to only view. He cannot edit or manage the information, but he can see the information. So if you can view, you can even make your own contribution. So you see that as a common data environment, this brings together all the stakeholders on the project to collaborate in real time. So those ones that are not working in Revit can still make their contributions on the cloud. And even this platform has a mobile app, so you don't even need to be on a PC or on your desktop to access the project's updates. From your PC, from your tablet device, you can access the same information, right? So this is where you have also these annotation tools. You have some navigation tools down here, right? So this is basically some of the features. And then you can see here that I have this version 2 now. So there's also something called compare in this docs module. So when I click on this version number here, I will see the version history of this particular file, right? When I click on this compare versions down here, in a project like I mentioned, you can have a file that has up to 500 versions. Perhaps I want to see what has changed between version 100 and version 2. For example, all I have to do is I pick those two versions and I click compare, right? So when I click compare, I choose the views. I choose the views that I want to compare. Okay, this is document A. I look at this. This is architecture. This architecture basic. So this, okay, basically version 1. Perhaps I've not uploaded the model at that point. So I can just publish. This is the architecture model. Okay, let me go to MEP since I've published MEP again. So if I go to this MEP, because I know that I've made some changes here, I go to BIM, go to model, go to Revit. So you see this one, I have the same two versions. And then if I compare versions here, and then I compare this, okay, the same. Okay, so also it's important to, from when you finish synchronizing your changes in Revit, there's one last step you also need to do in Revit, which is called manage cloud models. So when you come to this manage cloud models, this will bring up your, because what happened is that I've published these files between Revit, but I've not pushed it out to the cloud. So you see the various projects you have currently. So when I open this particular project from here, I need to push out these changes that I've made to this particular file to the cloud, right? So this is just basically scanning through the platform, trying to identify, is reading through all the folders and the files on the project. That's why it's taking a bit of a time. But once you've synchronized your changes, synchronization is for people that are communicating in Revit. So when you say synchronize with Central, you have what's called Autodesk Desktop Connector actually that enables all those communication to take place. But for people that are not working in Revit to see those changes, you need to push it out to the cloud, and you do it from this managed cloud models here. So from here, I can actually publish all of them together. So from this, you see publish all. I can either publish all of them, or I can choose which I want to publish individually. So for example, I can publish only the MEP model, right? So once I finish publishing this, you notice that their version numbers will change. It will update the changes on the cloud. But that will also take a while because I'm publishing 3 different models, and it will push out all the changes that have taken place between now and the last time. So that also take a while. So yeah, so you see that this, once it begins to publish, this orange color here will begin to change to green. Once you begin to see green here, you see that. So if you come here now, you see that this is uploading. You see this icon here, publishing latest, publishing latest, publishing latest. So it's basically uploading the changes to the cloud. So if you don't do this process, if you don't repeat this process, manage cloud models, you notice that people that are working in Revit to see the latest changes, but people that are viewing these files on the cloud might not see those same changes that you've made. So it's important to repeat this step from here. All you have to do from this Collaborate tab, you click on Manage Cloud Models, and then you select the files. Sometimes this can be time consuming. So another way you can do this is, if you go to your home page here, you navigate to the particular file you want to publish latest. So from here, you see this BIM 360. When you click on BIM 360 here, you need to make sure that you're on the right account and the right project. So you see that I'm on a different project. So from here, I can swap to this one, and then I choose the project. So this is the project under here. So now I navigate to the location of the particular file. So let's say I want to publish this MEP model. I go to MEP, go to BIM, go to model, and then Revit. So this is just basically the same interface. So you see, has published this. If this has not been published, I can simply come here and say publish latest. You see that it's grayed out. That's because I just published it now, right? So sometimes this might be faster. It saves your time instead of going through managed cloud models. But basically, you see now that it's now version 3 and it's processing what I just published. So it's because of that managed cloud models. If you don't go through that process, it might not push out the changes that you've done. So you can see that everything is currently green. You can see that everything has published all the changes to the cloud. So this is one last step you need to do. But basically what brought me here, after it is done processing, I want to compare what has changed between those two versions. So you see, it's still processing the latest update I made. So once it's done processing this, with this compare versions, this platform will show you what you have added, what you have removed, and what you have modified between two different versions. So this is also another visual tool that allows project managers, clients, and whatnot to track changes over the project's delivery lifecycle, right? So sometimes this tends to take time because imagine that basically what is processing now, I've added architecture model and structural model to this same file. So it's processing those two models because those are the things that have changed between the two versions, right? So to take a while to process this. Once it's done processing, I'll click on compare tools to see how that works. So this is, I'm just basically running through some, because basically what I've done so far, I've set up the projects on the cloud on the BIM 360 platform or Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro platform. I set up the projects in Revit, and then I enabled all the communications, share packages, consume packages, and then I'm now talking about how people that are not using Revit, non-technical members on the project, can also communicate. So this is done through this docs module, right? And then I will also, there's also one last module. Maybe I'll come back to this when it's done processing. There's one last module here called module coordination. For this one, it basically allows you to see where you have clashes between different modules you have on your project, right? So to set it up, it actually takes some steps, a lot of steps that you need to do, because you need
Hi. I think we lost the connection. Yeah, we can't hear you. Hello? Hi, Onyema. We lost your mic. You're muted. Hi, Onyema. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Apologies, I don't know. It keeps muting itself by default. Okay. So, like as I was saying, I want to show you how you can also do some class detection on this platform. Revit, and then based on the docs module, and then so because I've already done that, these are the various viewpoints I have under this coordination space This is the team space, for example. This is a coordination space. These are the various coordination spaces I've established, but they are basically referencing the same thing. So come to these settings here. These are the coordination spaces, right? So when you come to this model here, there are different ways to go about this. When you go to models tab, you choose the coordination space. You can see all of them. So I'm currently under team space, for example. So these are the various viewpoints. You can see this for architecture, these structures, this electrical, this mechanical, this plumbing. So let's say I want to identify where the mechanical discipline is clashing with the structural model, for example. I could just select just two of them, right? So I can even say, yeah, I could just say structural and mechanical. Maybe I add architecture as well. And then I click on view. So what will happen now is that this platform will combine those three models. This 3D model now, this is not AutoCAD view like my doing in Navisworks. So now you see now that it has combined the structural model, the architectural model, and the mechanical. They are combined together, right? So from here, I can even add or remove models. I can choose to add or remove models from here to identify where I have clashes. But this is mostly just for viewing purposes. Where you actually do, there's an automatic clash detection tool, which is now under clashes, right? So if I go to clashes here, you now have what's called the clash metrics. So this, you see, this is an automated clash detection that you have here. It's showing you architecture, structure, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. The same disciplines on the horizontal and the vertical axis. So the same thing going on here. So now you see that it's telling me that with architecture as the primary discipline and structure as the secondary discipline, I have 93 clashes. Electrical and architecture have 189. Plumbing and architecture have 207. So let's say I start with this one that is the highest, which is 207. So this basically will open this. So from here, you see the primary model is plumbing and it clashes with the secondary, which is architecture. So what happens is that the primary model shows as green and the primary model shows as red, which is plumbing, and the secondary model shows as green. So this is showing me where I have clashes within these two models. So for example here, you can see that within the Revit model, this shower has been copied, and then for some reason it has been moved. So you can see that two of them are clashing. So this automatically begins to, even visually, I can inspect where I have clashes, right? This is just a visual inspection I'm doing now. I can inspect where I have clashes on this project. So you can see all this where I have different types of clashes on this project. But this is not the automatic one. So these ones I see here are the ones that are now the automatic clashes that I have on this project, right? So when you click on any of these, it will take you straight to where you have that clash. So it's now up to you. As a lot of time this could be done by the project manager, the BIM managers, or whoever is in charge of resolving all these clashes. So it's now up to you to begin to look at this and choose if these are critical clashes, right? So I need to make sure that nothing is selected. So when I click on any of these guys, it takes me to where it is. This is just my system that is touching the wall. So is this a serious clash? I need to ask myself that. If it's not a serious clash, I can decide what I want to do with this. So when I select on this now, I can either ignore this. I can say that it's not an issue, for example. So I have two things. I can say that this is not an issue, and then I click on this, and then I can specify a reason why it's not an issue. For example, I can say it's a valid interface, or it's a valid penetration, or whatever. For example, a pipe could be passing through a floor. Of course, the pipe need to pass through a floor to get to its destination. So that could be a valid penetration. Or in this case, this system is touching the wall. It could be a valid interface. So in this case, I could say it's a valid interface. And then I can add more comments just to explain that. Right. So this is how I can begin to go through all those clashes until each of them is resolved. So now you see that this has been added to the closed tab. This is no more a clash. It has been closed. It's a closed issue. So when you click on this to take you to a tab here, closed, where you see all the closed issues. You can see the ones that have been assigned, which I will show in a bit. So if I go back to this, you see that it's now 206 and not 207. So I can even select similar clashes and resolve them at once. For example, if I come down here, I'm seeing a couple of elbows that are touching with, is a clashing. If you expand it, you see that this elbow is clashing with a wall or something. It's clashing with a column. Yes. So let's assume that for some reason all these elbows, they are similar clashes and they are minor issues, right? I can repeat the same thing. I can select all of them at once, and then I click on not issue and specify the reason why it's not an issue, right? I can say it's a valid penetration or whatever, or I can say it's an order and put a comment, right? So this is one of the options you have. So this will just close it to become a closed issue. But then you might have a more serious issue. For example, if I zoom in closely here, notice that something is not right here, for example. So let's just say I won't click on this, and for some reason this is a serious issue. Just to demonstrate, right? When I select this item here, I can now create an issue out of it. So I need to select this item, right? So this will begin to create the issue. Similar to what the way I created issue from the docs module just now when I was talking about the window size, the wrong window size, for example. That's the same way you can create an issue from here. So these are coordination features you have on this BIM Collaborate Pro platform, right? So from here, you see automatically has a title, a description. So just like I did before, I can assign this. So in this case, I can assign this to this person. This is the MEP engineer on this project and whatnot. I can assign a due date, add references. But when you create issue from here, it even adds a snapshot to this. And when the person receives the notification of this issue being assigned to him or her, the person will see this picture. So this will kind of give the person an understanding of what that issue is all about. So you can see now that this is when you have clashes on projects, this is a good way to begin to identify those clashes and begin to assign it to people to resolve. So whoever modeled this now will go back to Revit. For example, you can see this pipe that is passing through a window on this project, right? These are, if I click on this, it will even show me where it is on this place, right? If I click on this one as well, it will also show me where it is. So something like this is an issue. This pipe shouldn't be passing through a glass window. It should pass through a wall, or the route should change or something. So I can create an issue out of this as well. And then I select this pipe and whatnot, right? This will begin to create. So this is how you can begin to identify. So you see that this BIM Collaborate Pro is for everybody. Everybody on the project, they are communicating. It's not just working in Revit, and this is not limited to a network. It can work from any part of the world, right? So I come here from this, I can assign this issue to someone else, right? So let's say the same person, and then I assign a due date and whatnot. So the person automatically, once you see this pipe passing through a window, you understand what he needs to do. He needs to resolve it in Revit, or you're ready, right? So the more you are doing this, if you go back to the clash metrics, you notice that the issues are reducing. So it's now, you see that it's now 197 issues. And then when I open this, I can continue, or I can just go back here, and then you see the assigned issues from here. So I'll see all the issues that have been assigned, who they've been assigned to. I'll see all the closed issues. So those are some of the issues. So those are some of the things. Now, if I go back to the previous projects, I was talking about the version history, which is done from the docs module, right? So if I go back to this docs module now, I'm sure that it would have finished processing by now. So if I go back to the MEP discipline, go to documents, sorry, go to BIM rather, BIM model, then Revit. So if I click on this version number now, you can see that it's done processing. I can choose to compare versions. Let's say version 3 and version 2, right? When I click on this compare, so now you see that between this version 2 and version 3, I've added the structural and the architectural models. That's the difference. Already you can see the difference. So when I click on compare from here, this will also, it will begin to read those two models. What has changed between the two versions, right? So this is taking it. So if you want, you can also change what you want to compare. Otherwise, once you've selected what and what you need, you just click on compare. From here too, you can choose different things that you want to compare. This is now responding. Okay. So it wasn't responding. Another way you can go through it, you can also, if I open this same file, if I open the file which is currently opening, from here you can also see the compare button here. So you can see that this file here is now showing you that it's a combination of all the disciplines, both the structural, the architectural, and the MEP. So if I click on this compare button here, it will also bring up the same thing. So I can choose the versions I want to compare, this version 3 against version 2 and whatnot. And then I click compare. Right, so this is the compare. This is what the compare looks like. So from here, you can see the items on green are the items I've added. You can filter by what you've added, what you've removed, and what you've modified. So basically, when you click on this now, I've removed all the things I've added, which is basically the structural and the architectural model. And then when I click on this, let me say I want to see only the things I've modified. So when you zoom in closely, here, you see that some things have been modified for whatever reason between the two versions, right? So this is from here. Apart from this, you can even narrow down. So from here, you can see that this has to do with architectural changes, this has to do with structural changes, this has to do with electrical changes, this has to do with piping changes, and even miscellaneous changes. So I can even narrow down. This is just like a tree. If I want to see as a tree, I will just from here. So this is a breakdown of these files, right? So I can even narrow down. Maybe I want to see the pipes or something like that. If I scroll down, you can see something like plumbing fixtures. So once you click on that, you see that the elements are being highlighted from here, right? So this is how you can even begin to query what have changed over time and what have not changed. And then, so as a manager on a project, you can easily use this to track. You can easily use it to track what have changed over time. And then you can, if you want this to be side by side instead of, sorry, if you want it to be side by side instead of showing as a combined model here, you can even use this overlays. If you come here, you see side by side instead. So this will show you what is happening between these two models. So this is one of them. This is the other one. From here, you can still begin to filter elements. And for every element you select, for example, if I select this roof here, I can see what the roof looks like between the two versions. If that roof,
Hi, you're muted. We lost your connection to the microphone. Hello? We lost your connection. Hi, Onyema. We lost your connection. We can't hear you. Hello? Yeah, we can't hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, we lost you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Did you lose my connection at some point?
Yeah, about 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay. I was basically rounding up. I said that I've gone through the basic steps of collaborating through this platform. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer the questions at this point.
Okay, so my first question for you will be we have a lots of architecture students who are watching us right now. So, can you give them an advice on where to start out, some tips?
Okay. You mean working collaboratively on projects?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, it's important as a student. I mean, as a student, you still have access to Autodesk student license, which gives you basically ability to access most of these things as a student. So, as a student of a university, for example, you can use your email address to access the student license from Autodesk. And it's important to mention that a lot of times the way we are trained in school, we are not trained to collaborate on projects. We are trained to work in silos. As architects, when we design as individuals. But when you come out of school, you realize that projects are actually done collaboratively. You have to work with other consultants and other disciplines to deliver projects. So it's important, which is why it's important to begin to understand how multiple people can work on the same project in Revit. So basically, using Revit native tool. If you don't have access to BIM Collaborate Pro for a start, you can begin with the collaboration tool you have in Revit. I think I don't know if my screen. Okay, my screen is still shared. Yeah, so when you go to Revit here, you see that you can actually collaborate natively in Revit without having to make use of BIM Collaborate Pro. That could be a good start, but if you have access to BIM Collaborate Pro, which of course I don't know if they have student licenses for it, but I assume they do. You can also use that to practice. You can set up projects and begin to combine different disciplines and see how that comes together. Just like the one I demonstrated here, if you access the course on LinkedIn Learning, you can even download the structural models and the MP models I showed here. So you can use something like that to practice and begin to see how you can collaborate on project, because the truth is that in real life you actually have to collaborate. You don't design in silos, you don't work in silos on projects in real life. So it's important to begin to practice with some of these free tools that you have, especially now that you're still a student, because when you come out, you might not have access to all those student benefits in terms of licensing and all that anymore.
yeah. So students, you should start to learn Revit now, because here in the Philippines, some of the schools are not yet using Revit. So yeah, they should use Revit now and BAM, of course. Okay, so what is the status of BIM in Nigeria and Africa in your country?
Okay, well, I would say, because I'm part of a couple of companies and organizations that are championing BIM awareness and implementation. Sorry. So because of that, I have quite a number of hands-on experience on BIM implementation across Africa. So I would say in Nigeria or in Africa generally, you have a high level of awareness about BIM. Quite a number of people are aware of what BIM is and what BIM can do for them. They understand the benefits, but then when it comes down to the implementation aspect of it, you find out that it's still very poor. A lot of people are still having a lot of challenges implementing BIM on their projects. When we did a number of survey as of 2 years ago, A lot of people were saying that they find it expensive. A lot of people said they don't have the skilled personnel to implement BIM on their project. So there's a whole lot of challenges that a lot of people are still putting up. So of course, some big firms are already deploying BIM. I have a company that's what we do is basically BIM consultancy. We consult for companies and we help them to create BIM models basically. So some big companies are already taking up that challenge and the adoption is increasing over time. But I'll say that it's still at the elementary phases. It can still become much better over time.
Okay, so here's a question from Shadap. What is the difference between Naviswork and BIM collaboration in clash detection for projects?
Yes, Navisworks is like the parent software, but Navisworks, if you know Navisworks, you know that the desktop software is a desktop based tool. So, of course, I would say that Autodesk is extracting a lot of the features you have in Navisworks managed into the model coordination module of BIM Collaborate Pro or Autodesk Construction Cloud. So, a lot of the things you can do in Navisworks now you can do it much better on the cloud using BIM Collaborate Pro. So in this case, you can see that the file I shared earlier, it had this automated count of where you have clashes. Things like that, you don't find it in Navisworks. In Navisworks, you still have to specify what you want to clash and it will show you the clashes. So I would say that BIM Collaborate Pro, the collaboration aspect of it is a little bit more intelligent than Navisworks and is also cloud-based. Of course, Navisworks also interfaces with BIM Collaborate Pro and all the cloud-based tools from Autodesk because it's from the same company, but it's still a desktop-based software. The one on the cloud is the one that comes with BIM Collaborate Pro. But ideally, they are still trying to solve the same problem, which is identifying and resolving clashes on projects.
Okay. Next question is, can you tell us about Blaze Ink? Let me share my screen. Yeah, this
Okay.
one.
I can see your screen.
Yeah, here. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah, your
okay.
Blaze Ink.
Okay, yeah. So I'm the co-founder of Blaze Inc. Blaze Inc. is a startup in Nigeria that's just like we've seen, the build sector is a bit backward compared to so many other industries. So we do a couple of things. First of all, we have some offline activities which is tailored more towards BIM consultancy services. We provide services to companies here in Nigeria mostly. So, for example, we have a lot of MEP firms that they come in on projects that have been mandated to use BIM to a large extent, and they don't have the capacity to deliver on those projects. So, we consult for such companies and we help them to create BIM models. For example, we've worked on projects where the companies, their MEP firms, they have their design done in AutoCAD, but then the project is demanding that they create the BIM models in Revit. So we basically take their AutoCAD designs and then we translate it to Revit files. So that is one aspect of what we do. That is mostly our offline activities. And also online, we also do a lot of activities in terms of awareness, and even we have an online academy, which is called Blaze Academy, which is we identified that to address the issues we have in the industry, we need to focus more on students because students still have the time at their hands to learn these skills. So, of course, we have a platform that addresses both for students and professionals, but our target now is mostly for students. So, basically, what we do, we create some courses, rudimentary courses on these tools and put up on the platform, and students can access those courses for a very discounted, at a very discounted rate. So maybe later I can still share my screen to show what that looks like. But so that is basically what we are doing. We are trying to address the issues we have in the industry from different angles through consultancy and training services as well. So I think I'll just share my screen a bit, trying to open that up. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Um Which course are important to be complete BIM user? Yeah, I think you're muted. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, BIM is a very wide topic. We're talking about BIM. There are so many things that are involved to become a BIM user. So it's important to be able to specialize on which aspect of BIM. There's this popular image from Ziggurats. They do a lot of training. So when you go through the images, you notice that you have different specializations within BIM. So if you want to specialize as a BIM coordinator or a BIM modeler, or it can be an architectural BIM specialist, it can be a BIM manager. There are so many kind of specializations under BIM. So it depends on which aspect you want to focus on. So I will not say that there's one course that will help you become a complete BIM user, but it's also a journey as well. Because when you're talking about BIM represents a whole lot of things. It's like basically all the aspects of digital transformation you have in the build sector. So, of course, if you visit platforms like LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, and the likes, you see so many courses that are addressing different aspects of BIM. Some of them might be focused on the technology aspect of it, which has mostly to do with software, and some of them might be focusing more on the process aspects, which might have to do with things like your folder structure, naming convention, the business processes a company has to set up to be able to implement it. So is a wide array of it. So if you see LinkedIn Learning, for example, and you search BIM Manager, for example, you see a lot of courses. So, but you need to first of all decide on where you want to specialize. So when you decide your specialty, then you will now look for the courses that will help in that effect. I will not say there's one course really. It depends on what you want to do as a person.
Okay. So I think this will be the last question. So I am one of your students in LinkedIn Learning. So can you share us your journey on how you become a LinkedIn Learning author?
Okay. Okay, that's great to hear. I'm glad to hear that. I'm an architect by profession. I graduated. I finished my master's about 6 years ago, and when I finished school, I worked temporarily. I worked for a brief period of time as a system designer in a home automation company or IT integrations company. So after a while, I left there and I decided to begin to create content. So I create a lot of content. I've published a book about 2 years ago that's on Amazon, Apple Books, and the likes. So I like to create a lot of content. I've created a lot of content, and that is also what eventually led to our online academy. So I've created courses that are on Udemy and also on our platform, which is the BlazeMe platform I shared earlier. So sometime last year, I learned that LinkedIn is looking out for some African-based instructors. So I reached out to them, and yeah, so that was how I basically became a LinkedIn instructor. And so far, I've created just one course, and I'm currently in the process of creating the second one. So probably before the end of the year, I should have the second course published on the LinkedIn Learning platform.
Okay, so I guess we already answered your question to those who are asking for his second course. It will be launched at the end of the year. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so I think that's it. Thank you, Onyema, for giving us the opportunity
So you're welcome.
uh, to join us in this evening. And thank you. And any last words?
Okay. I'll just advise people to keep learning because the industry is transforming very rapidly, and there's a whole level of high level of tech infiltration into the industry. And if you are not learning, if you don't keep upgrading yourself, you might find yourself become irrelevant in a short period of time. So it's always good to learn new tools, learn new skills, even things that are outside of your mainstream profession, because you might not know where it will become very important and relevant in the near future. So just keep learning and keep upgrading yourself. The more skilled you become, the more useful you become in the industry. Generally.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to you. And we hope to see you again here.
Yeah, I look forward to that as well.
Okay, thanks, Onyema. Keep safe and healthy. And we hope to see you soon here in the Philippines.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
Okay, so thanks everyone for joining. And we hope to see you next time on another LinkedIn Learning event. Okay? Thanks, everyone.